Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2025 Chevy Malibu. Up front is a 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4, and down below is a CVT. Now I am super excited to be driving this Chevy Malibu for one reason. This is the last of the bloodline. The Chevy Malibu has been in production for several decades. And yet in late 2024, they canceled production with the 2025 model only being produced for about 5,000 units. So this really is the end of a bloodline. And so I'm excited to share this vehicle with you and do a little bit of post-mortem here on the Malibu. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackbradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that 1.5 liter turbo under the hood. Well, that is kind of a bread and butter engine for GM now. I was recently up in Detroit driving the new GMC Terrain, and that is the only engine that vehicle comes with. This is kind of their basic, makes decent horsepower, can kind of chuck it into everything engine. In the Malibu, it makes quite a bit of sense. I don't feel like I have this big lack of power. Getting up to speed is not treacherous like it is in the GMC Terrain. Now, they used to offer a 2-liter turbo for the Malibu. That is obviously the slightly better engine, makes more power, but I honestly don't hate this engine. It is paired to a CVT. I don't love the CVT, but again, I think it fits this application fine. It does the job. It doesn't beep, squeak, or rattle, so I'll take what I can get. Last but not least, the Malibu is, of course, front-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the Chevy Malibu? Well, it doesn't have any major distinguishing traits. The ride is decent, visibility is good, the power is fine. And so you could argue that maybe that's why this vehicle went away, because it didn't really make buyers love it. But at the same time, this generation of Malibu was really meant for rental car fleets. It was meant for business cars or company cars. And so as long as it drove good enough for those tasks, it was fine. And that's exactly how it drives. Will I go home and write in my nightly journal about how head over heels I was for the driving experience? No. But again, this was kind of a means to an end, and I can respect that enough. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a mix of physical and digital gauges. Off to the left is a tachometer, and off to the right is the coolant temperature and fuel, but then in the center, I do get a screen. This is pretty colorful, and honestly, I have to say it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to read. Modern Chevy usually has pretty convoluted, pretty hectic gauge clusters. This is actually really nice. It's clean and simple and easy. I actually really love this. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our cruise control options, as well as heated steering wheel and lane keep assist. And off to the right, we have our selectors for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our voice commands and phone. The steering wheel is nice. However, again, no crazy traits here. And off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, gauge dimmer switch, headlight switch. And moving under the door, we have 2 levels of memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows, as well as some nice wood accenting. Moving into the center, you do get the little infotainment display. This is smaller than a lot of other GM products, especially their EV products. The screen kind of dominates the interior. This definitely feels a lot more reserved, and I kind of like that. This does also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and uses Chevy's older bubble system that they had in like the late 2010s. They didn't really update it here for the Malibu for its final years. We do get some physical buttons for like home, skip track, volume, and our automatic start stop along with the hazard. And then down below, we do get our climate control options. We do have heated and ventilated seats, dual zone climate. Again, very, very nice things to see here in the Malibu, and they make the car a little bit more livable. Down below, we do get a cubby, as well as our traction control off and our parking sensors on and off. Shifter off to the left with the power parking brake. Again, a very late 2010s style shifter. You'll see a lot of that in the interior. They didn't really update it for the final years. And off to the right, we do have cup holders. We'll do a big frame bottle test, but they are way too small for that, so it immediately fails. Then we do get a little cubby, center console, and the seats. The seats are heated and ventilated, power and memory, and they are pretty nice. They're a little bit on the harder side, but I wouldn't say that it's crooking my back in any certain way. All right, so we're in the back of the 2025 Chevy Malibu, and a couple of things to note. First of all, I fit really well back here. My knees aren't hitting the seat in front of me. My head's not hitting the ceiling. I'm 5'11", not a small guy, so adults can sit back here and it's going to be a decent enough existence. GM has always had very good back seats. At least in my time of reviewing cars, and I've reviewed almost 1,800 or almost 1,900 cars maybe, they've always had pretty good back seats. I've always praised them for that, and so it's nice that that carries through till the very bitter end. We do have climate control vents back here. Again, an afterthought of a lot of sedans. They don't really include that, but they did here. USB-A, 12-volt outlet, and a wall outlet down below. So plenty of charging options here in the Malibu. We also do have fold-down cup holders, and like I said, I actually fit back here, which isn't always a given for sedans. So very, very nice. I enjoy the fact that this carries on that GM legacy, even though it might be the last footprint. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. Right around the back of the Malibu, we could double hit it here, and it will pop the trunk. Very, very nice to see that. And once we are back here, we do get a Malibu branded mat, which is pretty nice, and plenty of space. Again, like the back seats, GM has always been very good about their rear trunk space as well, so you have plenty of it here in the Malibu. Nothing too crazy. We do get tabs up here to actually lower the back seats, which is very nice, so you can slide them through in a 60-40 split. So, very, very nice. That is the trunk of one of the last Chevy sedans. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I do like the look of the Chevy Malibu. However, it hasn't really been updated all that much since this generation started in 2016. So it does look kind of outdated, at least compared to other modern traffic. A Hyundai product makes this look ancient. However, I do want to say that this is finished in a very nice mineral gray metallic. Now, that name doesn't sound that nice, but the color is very nice. It's not a silver, black, or white like most of these are for the fleets. So I like that. I like the black accents with the badges and the wheels. And overall, I think it's a relatively handsome vehicle, just maybe a little bit past its prime. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Chevy Malibu from 2025? Well, if you plopped me into this car, blindfolded, with no context of Chevy in the modern era, no context of the current situation with sedans, no context of any economic or social pressures around sedans, I would say that this is very nice. I like all the amenities in here. The heated, ventilated, power memory seats are very nice. The touchscreen Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I like the sunroof. I like how things are laid out in here. I love the gauge cluster, how simple it is. All of these are pretty big wins. I don't mind the 1.5 turbo or CVT. I think as an engine and transmission, they work fine enough for the job. But unfortunately, I don't live in a vacuum. If I did, it would be a Dyson. But I don't live in a vacuum. It'd be the Dyson ball thing, you know, from the 2000, whatever. I don't live in a vacuum. And so, knowing the history of not only a Chevy Malibu, but Chevy sedans, and it all ended like this. Instead of going out with a bang, the Chevy sedan went out with a whimper. From the great V8s and 4-doors and rear-wheel drive and all of the fantastic sedans that Chevy has produced over the years, some iconic vehicles, some amazing cars, to have it all boiled down to a front-wheel drive 1.5-liter turbo with a CVT, it just feels a little sad. And to make matters even worse, I'm pretty much in the auto industry. I have meetings on the regular with manufacturers. I've been to the plants. I've met the people who design the cars. I know the marketing teams. I've met and chatted with many people in the industry. I'm very involved. The fact that I didn't know that they were even still making these is insane. Chevy did not market them in their final years at all. It's as if they didn't want to sell them. And so it raises the question of the chicken or the egg. Did they cancel this because Chevy didn't want to make it, or was there a lack of demand? But was the lack of demand due to lack of advertising? Was the lack of demand due to Chevy not really caring about this car over the last 5 years and never giving it an update? This car looks identical to how it did in the late 2010s. We've gone through a worldwide pandemic. We've gone through economic soaring and falls. We've changed our minds. We've learned so much. AI has come and gone and come again. We are in a different world than when this car was designed and developed. This car was built for a world that does not exist anymore. And I don't know who to point the finger at. Is it the consumers who want crossovers? Do the consumers even really want crossovers, or do we just think that we want crossovers? Is it Chevy thinking that consumers think that they want crossovers? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. But what I will say is that it is sad that this car didn't get a send-off party. It didn't even get recognition. It quietly and silently went away. GM treated Oldsmobile with more respect than the Chevy Malibu. At least those got the final 500 edition. They came in a dark cherry red. They were collector's editions. They had this cool special badging on them. They cared more about Oldsmobile than this. And that, well, it's nothing short of a shame. I like this car. It was a good car. But for whatever reasons, whoever was in charge, whoever made the decision, they didn't want it to live. So we won't be getting another generation of the Malibu, at least as of now. Maybe down the road, but as of now, this car is dead. And it's unfortunate because we really lost a good one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Paul for letting me borrow his Chevy Malibu for today's video. Paul has been absolutely wonderful to work with. I appreciate him fitting me into his busy schedule, and I hope to work together again in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.